Evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 19th, 2022 meeting of the Abington Finance Committee. The time being 7:03. Because we're on a Zoom meeting, I'm going to do a roll call. I'm just going to go in the order of the grid boxes that I see. So I'm Barbara Ray. We have Andrew Leveralt, Chris Murphy, Paul Haggerty, Russ Fuller, and two of our members are not here yet. Matt Sala is still feeling under the weather, a little better, but still under the weather. So hopefully he'll be back next week. So I'm going to chair the meeting for tonight. And we have with us the town manager, Scott Lambiase, the treasurer collector, Sonia Hodge. We have Suzanne DeJustburg from the Council on Aging, and John Stone, the DPW director. So I will get started with Suzanne for the Council on Aging. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
Good evening, everyone. Council on Aging, we're busy the last couple of years as everyone else in the world. Doing a lot more community things with the building. We hosted the pitting of the new police chief. We've had school meetings in our auditorium. Our auditorium was a little smaller than the school's auditorium. And we had an open meeting forum there that I think a lot of you were there. So we're doing a lot more with like the community. AEF was in there doing some fundraisers this week. And some of the other schools, the ECC was, Beaverbrook was into the doing some kids things. So it's great. The seniors are really good in Abington. They're strong. They're a little feisty bunch. So we're just moving forward. Hopefully 2022 will be a great year for all of us. For all of us, not just the seniors, all of us. So,
and Suzanne, the seniors are back able to use the building, and how are you handling all of that?
They are. We never really closed. We were one of the first ones open to allow the seniors coming back in. Right now, there is a mask mandate because our numbers were so high, and I have the most vulnerable group, and but they're coming back slowly but surely. I think allowing to have clinics at the senior center, going to senior housing and giving out the vaccine, and also allowing boosters now, they're feeling a little bit more comfortable. They're coming back. It's hard to judge because right now it's like right after Christmas. It's kind of hectic from July to December, and then it kind of drops off a little bit the first couple of months. It's cold. They don't want to go out, but I feel like they're hunkering down a little bit more. The news makes them nervous, and the environment of the world. So they're coming back slowly but surely, but I'm sure once the warm weather hits, we try to do a couple of really fun things for them. Once the warm weather hits, we're going to do a lot more outside. And we threw them a Christmas party. We had some special dinners for them the last, this fiscal year. We're still trying to add on some more things, so they'll be more comfortable about coming back into the building and doing a lot more activities.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Abington, we have a lot of older seniors. And now the baby boomers are starting to come back, and they're looking for more activities. So we're starting to change our thought process and giving them a little bit more. We have a walking group, not now, but we did have a walking group. We would walk a piece around the building. Pickleball is still very, very popular because we're the only ones that have 6 courts. So just saying. But it's good. We're kind of trying to figure out how we're going to maneuver in this new world with our seniors. But it's good. We're taking good care of them. We have, and the town's been really great about supporting different things that we've been doing.
Fabulous. All sounds good, Suzanne. Is there anything besides your page on the budget that you want us to screen share?
No, we can go through the budget. Like, we can just go through
Okay.
my budget.
All right. Russ, would you mind
Okay.
pulling that up for us?
I'm sorry, I keep on looking like, okay.
Because I've been using Teams so much now, I got to remember. Oh, here we go. Share screen right in the middle. All right. People see my screen?
Nope.
Oh,
Okay. So what I did not. So, oh, here we go. Fifth time was a charm. Okay. All right. Sorry.
There it is.
that's okay. Thanks very much, Russ, for doing it.
No problem.
All right, Suzanne, wherever you want to jump in.
Let's go to operating first, because there might be questions with the operating.
Okay.
So looking at the electricity budget, I know that the town looks at the electricity. The electricity budget for the senior center is going up because we have a new digital sign, and the power unit that was there before just for the lights had burned out, so we had to upgrade it. So that's why there's a line item. It's around $25, $30 for the sign. But that's why there's an electrical budget there where there wouldn't have been one in years past. The heating budget, and I know that I'm always over at the last couple of years. The heating budget, we had this particular year, we got a bill in October. That's why this is so low. I just want to explain that, the $443. We got a bill in October and it was like $8,000. And it had taken us all these months to kind of tell National Grid that they were wrong. There's no way it was $8,000 in 1 month. So Mary Rogers and I have going back and forth with National Grid, trying to get them to come back and relook at it. We thought we had a gas leak. That wasn't the case. They fixed it on their end. We're waiting for them to credit us so we can actually have a firm base of what we actually owe
Okay.
for that. I just want to just kind of point that out.
I just have a quick question on that.
Sure.
It looks like, I mean, as you said, you've been consistently over what you budgeted for. And I mean, gas is just going up this year. Do you think it would make sense to allocate more for that fund for next year?
It's a great question. I was on the fence because we did get a new roof. And I thought that might have alleviated some of the, the openness, because there was a lot of leakage from our roof. I'm not sure. I wanted to get that first bill from National Grid so I can really look at it and say, if it's $1,200, yes, maybe a little bit of money in that budget, but I wasn't really, I'm still kind of looking at this roof going, are we going to, need that extra money, or is this roof really going to, tighten things in? So I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
There are two gas accounts. There's well, and there's another one. One's always under and one's always over.
Okay, the one that's always under,
Yeah.
that's for the van. That's actually gas for the van.
Oh,
So the
okay.
first one that you're looking at, heat for the building,
Yeah,
gas for
okay.
heat. I guess that's how they put it. And the next one that you look at it, when you see it, it says gas, oil.
Yes.
Yeah, gas. That's our van, how much we're spending on the van. And that kind of fluctuates too, because of the prices of gas and actually where we're going. We have another source of transportation called Dial-A-Bat, and they go further than what we go. We only have one van, so we try to limit our space between Abington and South Shore Hospital and the Stetson Building and Performance Drive. Anything with East Bridgewater, the other side of Brockton Hospital, we use this program called Dial-A-Bag. So it's always a little bit under because of how the gas fluctuates. It's also a little bit under because we're not driving as far because of our seniors are getting older and they're not using our van as much. And now I'm seeing an influx of seniors starting to use our van. So it's almost like we're a little bit at the bottom of the wave and we're getting a little bit higher. Does that make sense?
I guess. It's just, the highest it's ever been is a little over 2,000 and the budget's 5,000. But, whether you take some from this and put it in the other account, I guess it doesn't matter. It all adds up.
Right.
But
well, and that's the thing. Historically, they've always been under budget. If you look at what they've been allocated and where it's actually come in, it's always come in and not under the last 3 years.
yeah, right. So why keep putting it in the budget is what I'm saying. But why not put it up where you're always over so that it works, so things match better. But that's just my ordered mind, I guess.
If that's more convenient, absolutely.
That's more up to Sonia and Scott if they want to. It's just an observation on my part.
Yeah, we can talk about that, Sonia and Scott.
They may not care.
No, we don't. Actually, it makes perfect sense, and it's definitely something.
So, okay, gas, equipment and maintenance. That's like building expenses. Where since we did the open meeting law, we kind of looked at the space. We needed to update our camera system and also our screen. Scott and I talked about it back and forth. So we have somebody coming in and giving me a price for that. It's not going to be that expensive because cameras are not that expensive, but it'd be a little bit easier for a hookup. Right now, you have to go to the stage, put your laptop on the stage, run to the back of the stage to adjust, and then keep on going back and forth. It's just not a really good system. And then also we are changing how we enter into the building. We are looking to put fobs in, just like they have in Town Hall. It's just a lot easier since we are using it for other groups right now. It's easier to just hand them a fob, be able to program it to let them in and exit. So we haven't spent that money yet, but we're planning to. And then we go to vehicle maintenance. There hasn't been a lot of vehicle maintenance. We did lose our Cadillac converter. Somebody stole it off our senior van. Yes, in the middle of the night, they took our Cadillac converter. So we had to pay for that. But we're lucky enough, I had a grant that I used. So we haven't used a lot of the maintenance for the van. Like I said, we only have one van, and I think it has like 55,000 miles on it, and it's a 2014. So we're not using a lot of it. And I don't think that as far as like tires and oil changes, we maintain our equipment because we never know when we're going to get new stuff.
Quick question, Suzanne. Any
Sure.
cameras up around that building?
Yes,
There is.
there is. We have cameras in the back. We have one camera facing the dog park entrance, and then we have cameras inside and outside. The reason why we have them inside is just in case something ever happened to one of our seniors and we didn't see it. They fall or, we're always kind of looking at that, but we do have cameras around the building.
So any luck seeing who was stealing the catalytic converter?
No, it was, but somebody was caught with a big one in Holbrook. So I think that was mine, but we couldn't really prove it. They're not stamped, so. But yeah, that was a new thing that people were coming and stealing catalytic converters from different cars. So just something to be aware of your own car. Let's see, where am I now? Vehicle maintenance, damage and repair for the building, for the equipment. Education, we haven't used education because there is nothing we can send people out. I have a staff of 4 people and myself. It's hard when somebody goes on vacation because we do 2 jobs. We kind of take care of everybody else's. Right now, we do not have a Meals on Wheels coordinator. I didn't budget for one. We are all taking over that particular job. We're doing, everybody's taking a piece of it right now. The postage is being paid by the Abington Elderly Association. But they had just recently lost their president. I'm not really sure. They're kind of revamping. I'm not really sure if that's going to continue. I'm hoping, and it probably will. I'm just not really sure how that's going to work out. So I just like to keep the $1,200, and that is it costs us about $375, and that's for our newsletter that goes out to 2,300 people. Office supplies. I'm still in papers and pens. Right now, most of my seniors are not online. They don't have a Facebook. So any announcements that we do, we do paper and pen. So that's why it's always a little, it would be lower if they had computers, but a lot of my seniors do not have computers. They don't even have access to them. Custodial, we're vamping up again with custodial. We are trying to anticipate what's going to happen during the summer. How much cleaning supplies that we need, what actually do we need? We have a 22,000-foot building that we try to keep clean and sanitize. So it does go up and it does kind of fluctuate. Last year was expensive, obviously, because of, COVID. We used a lot of cleaning supplies, and we still do have some cleaning supplies, but we go through a lot. We have, seniors that, and messy, just messy, things happen. Then we already talked about the gas, the oil budget, and then travel budget. We're not going anywhere. So, I don't anticipate that we're going anywhere in the next couple of years. And then the dues, we pay dues to Elder Services and Mass Council on Aging. They have allowed us not to pay the dues in the last couple of years because of the environment. They just said, we'll just move on. So that's why it's 0. And I think that's it. And then we can go back to the top and talk about the salary budgets. I'm sorry, is there any questions about the operation budgets? Am I going too fast?
No.
Okay,
Good.
Okay, so salaries, we have a custodian / cook at our senior center. So we, $15 an hour, just using an example, is the norm out, for anything. So they really do step up the staff. And as I said, there's only 4 of us. 4 of us full-time and 1 part-timer right now. So all of them step up. We have a van driver that also does most of our Meals on Wheels coordinating. Our outreach coordinator is very underpaid for the climate. Even with this increase, she is underpaid if you look at what the salaries are for their surrounding towns. Most of the surrounding towns make way over the 37 for a really good outreach coordinator. And just the heads up, we have one of the best. And I'll give you an example. 1972 graduating class of Abington High School, one person needed information about outreach and senior health insurance, which is our SHINE program. And when our outreach coordinator helped him out so well, he called all the graduating class and told them to go call her. So she was getting calls all over Massachusetts for her expertise on senior insurance. So, and
sorry, is there, just to pick up on that, is there a reason why we could not perhaps leverage some of the underspend that we've been talking about the last few minutes to maybe make this right so that we don't have retention issues with the certain staff members that we'd like to not have retention issues with, I guess.
The salaries are already up 14% in total.
Well, I see the 8.7%, but we do have other.
No, it's a lot more. It's actually 23% over last year. Last year was 30,000. It's $2 an hour plus. They were paid 30,000 last year, and this year it's 37,000. Is that right? That's what.
She was also. They were also increased hourly from last year to this year. The outreach, most of my staff was working 19.5 hours. That's the other. Now they're up to the custodian, the driver is up to 25, and the outreach coordinator is up to 29. That was the other jump. I apologize for not explaining that. But like I said, I couldn't work with 4 19.5 hour employees and be able to do what we did in the last couple of years or last year.
And I'll clarify too, the percentage increases here are based on the hourly rate, not number of hours.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm looking at compared to last year's budget, to be fair.
Oh, I don't have that.
For each of those positions. That's why the total salary is 181 versus 159. It's a combination of things.
Yes.
So it's about a 14% increase
Yes, in total.
in total.
Yeah.
And to Russ's point, if you trued up the budget numbers for the other accounts, it's like you could either use that to, allocate the salaries.
That could be a discussion with Sonia and Scott. We could sit down and discuss that.
You guys are talking about the gas, correct?
Talking about the salaries, like specifically maybe the outreach coordinator, I guess. I mean, I don't, again.
No, I'm sorry. Russ, I meant that they were talking about the overage, the gas oil.
There's a few.
Yeah,
there's
a few of them here. So yeah. Yeah.
Just to better match things up, I think.
Right, Chris.
Yeah.
When you look at
Right.
those, when you look at the numbers, where you're seeing the discrepancies, can you give me a ballpark of what you think that adds up to?
What do you mean, the discrepancies?
Well, like the
Underspend.
budgeting over on the gas.
Well, the trouble is that there's one account that's always comes in over budget by about 3,000. That's the heating oil, and the gas for the vehicles has been coming in about 3,000 under.
Okay, so that's
those
kind
two
of wash.
wash out. There's a few others that, there's a number in there just in case something happens, and nothing's happened for the last 3 or 4 years. And you could sort of reallocate those, but that's a decision for these folks. But the salaries, what I'm trying to say is this new budget includes the increase to get them up to par. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So
Well, I guess where I was coming from is it sounds like from what Suzanne is saying that, we are definitely starting to correct some of the salaries, but it seems like perhaps at least one of the members is kind of underpaid versus, the market perhaps. And that's kind of what I was responding to a little bit. I mean, we know in these times that not only are there not as many workers as there are jobs, but if you have a special one, not only is that person harder to, it makes that role even harder to backfill if it's a especially good person. And that's why I was thinking if we could just find a few extra dollars, quote unquote, from another account within this budget, maybe that could make that situation a little bit better. And I do understand that there is a large amount of that there is the 14% increase year over year, but that often happens when we're trying to kind of fix historic salary issues, which is what sounds like we're trying to do. So I'm less concerned with that and more concerned with what happens if we lose a really good town employee. That's where I was coming from, because we're talking small dollars in the whole scheme of things to be able to make the situation right. It's not like we're looking for $50,000. We're not. We're looking for just a few thousand.
Thank you, Ross. And so this budget does that.
Sorry, is the outreach coordinator part-time?
No, she's full-time.
Full-time. And so
Yes.
what does the full-time person get paid?
For the outreach coordinator, I think it's right now it's $25 an hour, roughly.
Gotcha. And they work, you're saying roughly 25 hours, or that's 40
They work.
hours?
She particularly works 29 hours.
And that's considered full-time?
Anything over 19.5 in the town is considered full-time.
Got it.
Right. So she's offered. So that position is on all the other positions except the transportation coordinator, because she's 19.5. They are offered health insurance to anything over 19.5. I know this particular outreach coordinator does not take the health insurance for the town.
So roughly, I'm unfortunately driving, but roughly 40 grand a year.
Yes, roughly.
And what is the person, or what are you saying that this person should be getting paid, or other comparable people that do 29 hours of
I'm not sure the 29 hours. I know 32 hours. I believe it's an increase of like $8,000 in the town of East Bridgewater.
But so again, I just want to make sure I'm hearing the right things. Maybe I didn't. 37,000 in other towns is what these people get paid. Was that not said, or did I mishear something?
No. So I'm doing it at $29 an hour, but if she was increased to 32, which is the normal, 32 is the normal for an outreach coordinator.
$32
Dollar-wise, she would be increased.
$32 an hour instead of 25.
No. She's currently at $23 an hour. This budget proposes to move her to $25 an hour. She works 29 hours a week.
Right.
Suzanne is saying that in other towns, often they would work 32 hours a week.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you. Do we need the extra 3 hours?
No. I think we're good for the 29. If you'd like, Sonia and Scott and I can discuss bringing her up to 32. But even if the 32 for $25 an hour, most outreach coordinators are making $30,000 to $33,000. I mean, $30 to $33 an hour.
Yeah, I just think that might be a nice takeaway for you to work with Scott and Sonia on, because that's
Absolutely.
I mean, we haven't had a ton of these particular type of situations come up so far in our budget meetings, and I'd like to think that maybe this is something that we could take care of for a valued town employee. Perhaps. Okay. I'm gonna not harp on this anymore.
The only thing I will say is that that would be a pretty large increase, though the person's not getting paid that much. That's a very large increase, like percentage wise.
Right.
That's not like normal.
It is. That is exactly correct. It's like a market fixed to a salary level. Yeah, it's fixed.
We have done that in years past, because we have had positions that had been underpaid.
But can you really look at this on a percentage basis when you're talking about an hourly going from $23 to $25? I mean, obviously that's going to be percentage wise, it's going to be high, but in dollar impact, it's small. It's not like it's somebody making $100,000. It's $2
Like
an hour.
Russ's point with the retaining employees too.
Exactly.
Especially during with job turnovers and the great, what are we calling it? The great resignation, or the whatever we're calling it now. We do want to hold on to good employees, and especially
right. And that's where and that's where if the market's 30 to 33 and we're only going up to 25, it's like we've got a great employee that we want to retain. Like, I don't know why we wouldn't do it. It's like we find the money to do it. And if you look at the budget, they haven't, Council on Aging doesn't go over on an annual basis in total. So they do manage their budget very, very well.
But the budget's doubled in over the last 3 years. I'm just saying, if we're getting value for it, great. But it has doubled in 3 years.
But again, what does that mean? Just because a number doubles doesn't, if you start out at $100,000 and you go up to $200,000, but on a $56 million town budget, I mean, where's the value? It seems like we're getting value here.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not arguing. I'm just pointing out that it has doubled.
I know, but all I'm trying to say though is we got to put context to when we say it's a certain percentage. If we're talking about an hourly rate, it's for me, it's difficult to hear percentages thrown around when we're actually talking about dollars, like $23 to $25.
I'll put a dollar on it. The last year the budget was $30,000. This year it's $37,000. So you're right. It's only a $7,000 increase compared to all the salaries in the town. $7,000 isn't much.
All right, Suzanne. Thought I had a question, but now I think we may have answered it already.
I had just more of a general question related to funding for the Council on Aging. I know during the pandemic, a lot of, like Elder Affairs was receiving federal grants and things of that nature. Were you able to avail yourself of any sort of state grants to, outreach or anything like that? Or
we got a lot of money through the CARES Act through the town. Old Colony Elder Services, we switched for our Meals on Wheels program from planning services to Old Colony Elder Services, and they did help a little bit here and there. In that environment in 2021, the end of 2021, there was a lot of turnover in there. We do have a formula grant that I use to kind of bridge things, but that for the most part, the formula grant definitely goes directly to the seniors for things that encourage them. We bought a new computer system. We buy things that they would need. They need printing, they need that kind of thing. That's what our formula grant uses for. So that's why we never really go over our budget, because we do have this grant that we use.
And then you mentioned previously events like, dinners and things like that. Are those self-funded? You pay a certain amount to, go to a dinner or whatnot?
Yeah, for the most part, it's minimal. Our lunches are $3 and they get the whole thing. Like all people, because we're human, as long as you feed us and we're warm, we're good. So, that's what they look forward to. They look forward to, and when you're living alone, you do look forward to a special meal. So we only serve meals out of the Council on Aging on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I would love to do it 5 days a week. We just can't really swing that. It's now pricier if you've gone to the grocery store. It just gets too much money. But we do try to do special events. We're having a Valentine's dinner. We're getting a catered brunch. We always have done a St. Patrick's Day corned beef dinner. So things like that. And we don't up the price for it. It's $3. A lot of my seniors are on a fixed income, and to increase it to say $10, it's tight for them. You either eat or you pay for your medication, and we're flip-flopping week to week with these seniors, trying to bridge those gaps. We're lucky enough that we come from a great town. Everybody kind of jumps in when I need something. We have a giving tree this Christmas that the town was like, it was amazing. It was like what they donated to our seniors was incredible. But we also cooked meals. We cooked Christmas dinner for them, which they wouldn't have gotten. And we did that on with no money. They did not pay a dime. And we did over 70 meals for them, for our homebound seniors. And those are the ones that we know, we have interaction, we hear from. And just to segue, the police department delivered our meals. We did it for Thanksgiving. We also did it for Christmas. We've been doing it for years. And it was cool this year because our seniors got to see the police come and give them a Christmas bag and give them a dinner. And it was really heartwarming.
Suzanne, what have you seen for an increase in the need for Meals on Wheels, especially with the due to the pandemic?
Right now, we have over 40 clients on our Meals on Wheels program. And that's through Old Colony. We see they do their own for Abington, but we also have home delivered meals. So there's a lot more than 40 that's going on the town. I'm just doing a little bit over 40. It fluctuates. We have people, getting voted off the island. And then we have people coming, getting more onto the program. The program really is great for people who have an operation and they just can't cook for 2 weeks. So it does fluctuate. We get a lot of people who are just getting out of rehab and they just need a meal every day or somebody to stop by every day to check on them. Those are the things. So it does fluctuate. We've had over 55 with the fluctuations.
Thank you.
It's a great program. It really is.
Program. More questions for Suzanne?
No, I don't have a question. I do think Chris has a good point though, as far as like truing up the budget to get the line items to match up with what actually is going on is a good suggestion. Is a good recommendation. Yeah.
Okay. I'll talk to Sonia and Scott about that and we'll tighten it up.
Thank you very much, Suzanne.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
All right, so we're going to move right along to our DPW, John Stone.
Anybody happen to know what page number of the budget that is? Of this document, rather?
53, well,
Start on 47.
47 is highway.
Okay,
Perfect.
sweet. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hey, John. Yes, we can hear
All right.
you.
Just making sure. I've asked Jeannie White, our executive assistant, and Kelly Johnson, our recreation director, to join the meeting since we are like probably 4 budgets in one. So
Right.
for support. So you want to start with highway?
That sounds good to me.
All right. So basically, the DPW union contract ends June 30th. So I just added 2% to their line items because we don't know what is going to be negotiated. So I figured 2% would be a safe bet. So we don't end up short. I'm sure negotiations will begin soon. But I figured 2% would be a good starting point. At least we could adjust it going forward. And for everyone under personnel bylaws, I added 2% to that too. So there were really no other changes except for under salaries, except for overtime. It seems we're getting a lot of windstorms, like the one in October. It was named a bomb cyclone. We were here for like 4 days straight. So I increased the overtime a touch. But I think you guys were on electricity, right? Or are we, we're on overtime. All right. So basically, there's no other changes aside from 2% increase in overtime, and we added one position to help us. We're definitely shorthanded compared to other towns. There's another town that's very similar to ours, where they have 14 union positions, and we have 9. So I originally asked for 2 more people. Groundskeepers, laborers, you can call them whatever you want. We're all 1 now. But when Scott and Sonia said we got to cut the budget by 5%, we took one of them positions off. So we're asking for 1 position now to help us. And that would give us 10 union spots. And we're still under, but we'll make do. We always make do. Even if we don't get that other spot, we'll still make do. So that's where we stand salary-wise in highway. Does anyone have any questions?
Everybody good right now?
I don't know if we've gotten there yet. The only question I had is the on-call status budget appropriation. I'm assuming that's for members to be on call when they're off duty in case they have to come in for something. It doesn't look like there were any previous allocations to that in other fiscal years. I just didn't know if you could speak to why that just sort of looks like it just appeared this year.
I'm not sure why there isn't any listed on your sheet, but we've had on-call status budget for years and years and years.
Sonia, may that have been dropped off of and
No, this is a new account. I believe that it was previously budgeted within a different line item.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
so
could be
previously it was in with the regular budget and it was never separated.
okay.
Thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Thank you, Sonia. You're right. My apologies. But we definitely have on-call people for, you name it. I mean, we're a 24/7 operation. We never stop for COVID, for nothing. So
maybe because when we look at salaries, they don't look like they've gone up at all. And it may be because the 27 was in there last year and it's not in there this year.
it could be, it should show an increase for 1 new position and an increase in overtime and 2% for
Right,
everybody.
that explains it. All right.
That should be our only increase. There's nothing else. It's all predicated on what the town and the DPW union come up with in negotiations, but I think a 2% is probably, it's going to be somewhere around that mark, in my opinion. Any more questions for salaries and highway?
Looks like we're good, John.
All right. Thank you, Barbara. So we'll go to, let's see, you can go to 5240, building repair and maintenance. I'll just give a brief rundown of what all these line items fund. It's 5240. I know our budget is all over the place on many different sheets.
Right, because we
not
were
easy.
separated out before and now so yeah, that's.
I think at some point we have to.
It should be page 48.
We have to bring it all together in a different
Right.
format for you. There it is, 5240.
Okay, yeah.
Building repair and maintenance. That's just to upkeep the building on Central Street. If it's not the oldest building, which I think it might be, it's definitely one of the oldest buildings. So there was no change there.
Quick question, John, just because historically, what's up with that roof?
Barbara, the whole building, the building is beyond repair. I was hoping to get to that.
Okay, all right, yep, no, you can,
line
yep.
items.
Okay, just.
Yeah, the building,
we were
the building
talking
is
about-
beyond repair. It's a safety hazard.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, thanks, John.
You're welcome, Barbara. Traffic lights, we have 7 traffic lights in town. For those who don't know, traffic light is not a street light. It's the red, yellow, and green lights. Those are considered traffic lights. We have 7 in town. There's often, a few problems with them. Some we can do in-house. Sometimes we got a contract out with Bell Traffic to fix them. So that's what's funded out of that line item, 5252. Moving on, outside contracts. In the rare instance, we need help from the outside. This line item funds that. It also funds the weed control on the side of the roads and the curbs. We have them sprayed every, I'd say, August, because if you don't, it looks terrible. That line item also funds cell phone service for the highway division guys.
Quick question, John, the
Barbara.
weed control and the spraying, because I know you have to have special certifications and all for that. Are we doing that on our own with our people, or we're contracting that?
We're subbing that out, Barbara. It's a great question. We're subbing that out. Yeah, you need special licenses for that.
Which we
Different
used
types
to
of
do
insurance.
years ago. That was in-house years ago, correct?
I'm sure it was years ago, but now there are different rules and
Mhm.
OSHA and all kinds of stuff. So we sub that out. It's just as easy. We don't have the correct equipment to spray for weeds on the side of the road, but I think I think the contractor that we use does a really good job. And if you drive through other towns, you'll see weeds in the gutter.
Yeah. I remember a time when we weren't being able to afford to do it. So
Yes.
I do think that a good job is being done. I just wasn't sure if we were subbing that out or if that was in-house again.
No, we're subbing that out, Barbara. And yeah, I think he does a great job, but.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tree trimming, $28,000. We kept it the same. We still hold a list of 33 requests for tree removals at different people's property that are town-owned trees. That's down from about, I'd say 80 or 90 from 4 years ago or 5 years ago after that accident on Rockland Street. We received, after the accident, obviously we received a lot of calls for tree removals, and we're trimming that list down. And I think in a couple of years, we won't have a list anymore and we'll be able to take a proactive approach. We can't do it in-house. We don't have the manpower and we don't have a bucket truck, a certifiable bucket truck. So we don't do it in-house. We sub that out and it's under contract. There's no other, we don't have a choice. So we kept that the same, and our hope is, I talked to Jeannie and Kelly about it this morning. Our hope is in about 3 years, we won't have a list anymore and we'll be able to go down a road and take a proactive approach. That's where we're hoping to get. And I think we will in a couple of years. So we left that the same. Other property related services. It's natural gas. We use that line item to fund natural gas to heat the buildings on Central Street. Kept it the same, no changes. Moving on, hazardous waste. This is a new line item where we're going to have a hazardous waste company come in and pick up mattresses, because I don't want the guys doing that anymore. I don't want the field staff picking up mattresses, used mattresses on Chestnut Street or anywhere else for that matter. The Board of Health will often call about different pieces of furniture or scrap or anything on the side of the road, trash, anything that we have to go pick up. But these guys shouldn't be touching mattresses this day and age. So that's a new line item. I'm hoping to fund that for $2,000. A couple times a year, we'll get a call about a mattress. I don't want the field staff touching them. That is my hope. I hope it gets approved.
John, that completely makes sense. I'm wondering, any ideas from you on ways to combat that to begin with? I know that, the certain stretches of road for sure, it's a big problem.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Bob.
Illegal dumping and
I think the only way to combat any of these things like illegal dumping or vandalism is cameras. I've had this discussion with Kelly and Jeannie. I don't even the only way to combat these things is cameras, video inspection. I don't see another way. Chestnut Street's off the beaten path. There's millions of places to pull over and dump something if you want. If someone feels like ruining a playground, there's no one to stop them. There's nothing to prevent it. There's nothing. So it's, I think that's the only thing I can think of.
I would agree with you, and thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Then we go to tools. Vehicles are always changing. We always need different types of tools. Everything's computerized now. So we fund those types of things out of the tools line item. No change from last year or the year before, Office supplies, $200, no change. 6 years ago, we combined the highway, park, and sewer offices. We went from, I'd say, 5 or 6 full-time positions down to 2.5 and saved the town about $100,000 a year. And that's a credit to Jeannie and Kelly and Paula. So we just share office supplies now. Fuel and gas. There's no way to predict what July is going to hold for us gas price wise. So I just kept that the same, $35,000. Vehicle supplies and maintenance and repair. That's just to take care of our aging fleet, tires, radiators, various parts for the fleet. Not only trucks, but we have 2 loaders, a backhoe, 2 sweepers, various other pieces of equipment, and that line item funds that. Where we tar and gravel, that I'd like to change the name of that to asphalt at some point, if we could, Sonia. That's just for like potholes, asphalt for potholes, and asphalt for berms. We get a lot of requests for berms, so the rainwater from the road doesn't end up on people's property, and we try to take care of them over a period of time. That's what that line item funds. Street signs and street striping, 5534. We have tons of requests for signs. That's what that line item funds, and it also funds crosswalk striping, long lines like the yellow lines in the middle of the road, fog lines, which are the white lines near the curb. That's what that line item funds, and we haven't changed that in a couple of years. So I think we're good there. Public work supplies, $15,000, no change. We use that to fund if we need drainage pipe, castings like manhole castings, catch basin castings, things of that nature. Expenses, $57.80. Safety equipment, cones, barrels, license renewals for the field staff. There's continuing education units that need to be met in order for them to retain their licenses. We use that line item to fund those items. So that's highway in a nutshell. Any questions?
John, I had a quick question. You were talking, it's Greg. You were talking about cameras. Hey, cameras for things that, you said something about a playground or something.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you ever communicate with police, but a lot of people, again, I don't know the numbers, but a lot of people have these Ring cameras at this point, including myself. In the meantime, before something like that could be voted on or seen or put in a budget, maybe if things are really bad that happened, maybe you could ask them to reach out for people around there to see if they could look into their cameras.
It's a good point, Greg. Very good point.
I think too, Greg, some of it is some of the areas that they're dropping are not near where people's houses are.
Yeah. No. I meant more like, I understand about the mattresses and that's annoying and people shouldn't do all that stuff. I meant more if like somebody's breaking a playground for kids and stuff like that. It's, in my opinion, more important. All I was saying is maybe if it's around somebody's house or something, maybe that's a route that we could maybe go. On the second thing, on the bucket truck, Scott, didn't we already approve the bucket truck? Why are you still looking for a bucket truck?
We approved purchasing a used bucket truck, and
Correct.
it's not like there's a ton of them out there.
Yeah, are there? All right, so we still have the budget for that bucket truck. Sorry,
we never budgeted money for the bucket truck. We were planning on using the American Recovery Plan Act money for it up to a certain point. So, we still have money and we're still looking. And actually, we actually ran it through Plymouth County just to make sure that it met the requirements for what we could spend the money on. But it seems like the point's moot on that anyways. We're still looking.
All right, good. I didn't know if what John said we weren't. They were going for it again. All right, so we have it allocated in the ARPA money. We're looking. We just haven't found one that's a good price.
Right.
You're right,
Okay,
Greg. I did add it to the capital plan again, the document I sent everybody last week, because I wasn't sure if ARPA would be able to pay for it. That's why I added it again.
Yeah,
Right.
good. All right, but we know that it will, correct?
I guess so. Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. I think I have a couple. I don't know how you have to buy these things, but I think I've talked to John about this once before. I have a guy here in Holbrook that I think will get rid of a bucket truck that's in good shape.
That's good to know.
We'd love to talk to him.
We would. All right. Moving on. I was going to go over the snow budget. If you have that next, it's 5110. There it is. Good job. Basically, the whole snow budget is $100,000, and it hasn't changed since I've been doing it for 6 years, or I think about 5 years before that. So $100,000 hasn't changed in a decade or more. It's the only line item that you can overspend by under municipal law. I'd rather have Sonia speak to that, but I think that's the only line item you can overspend.
And I do believe that I do remember a time that I think we were budgeting 50,000.
I think you're right, Barbara. I think you're right.
And it's never been.
It's never.
John, maybe you can speak to the points too about why we budget that way, or Sonia.
It's just because it's unpredictable. You never know what you're going to get. You could get nothing. Like this year.
And once we can never decrease it. So if we say, oh, we're going to set that budget to 200,000 because it's a little more realistic, the following year you can't then drop back down to budgeting for 100,000.
That's right.
That's correct.
And John is absolutely right that you can deficit spend and snow removal, but nothing else.
That's the wording I was looking for. Deficit spend.
John, since I think we've had one snowstorm and then some other, events. Like
we've had one plowing event and 6 salting events.
And where do you have a rough ballpark of where we are spending so far this month?
$95,748.35.
And how much did it cost to fill the salt shed, to fill the?
We've got 599 tons of salt so far at $65.70 a ton. So if you do the math, bottom line, we've almost reached that $100,000 for FY22, which isn't a surprise. We always go over $100,000, but we've had 7 events, 1 plowing, 6 salting events. And a total of 11 plus inches of snow so far. It's been nothing, but we still have to salt to make the road safe. Any questions on the snow budget? No? Okay. Any questions on highway in general? All right, we'll move on to sewer. $4410, Department 4410. Oh, you already have it. Way ahead of me. Again, no changes in salary aside from 2% COLAs. We have sewer workers that belong to the DPW union as well, and we're still waiting to hammer out a new contract with them. So I added 2% just to be on the safe side. Could be a little less. I don't know. It's going to be somewhere around 2%. So I figured that was the safe route to take. Everything else is pretty much the same salary wise. I think I increased the overtime budget 2%. We have 13 pump stations that run 24/7. So we have an on-call guy, sewer on-call guy, and we often get calls for overtime for pump station failures or sewer backups or dig safes. So that line item funds those tasks.
The salaries are going up in total 8% over last year's budget.
8%?
What's going on there? Again, it's only 43,000, but it is 8%.
Let me look into it real quick. Stipends, longevity, there's an increase in longevity, increase in overtime, 2% increase. I don't know what that adds up to. It could be around there.
Yeah, something probably got.
It's mostly longevity because it was $50 a year for every year you've been employed by the town, and it got increased to $100. That's the only explanation I have right now. Went from 487 to 517.
That's 21 to 22.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'll have to look into it and get back to you. I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a typo in here. There's nothing other than a 2% increase in overtime, 2% increase for personnel, and the increase in longevity. I'll have to look into it further and get back to you.
All right.
That's fine, John.
Yeah.
And John, I had a question on the department as a whole. So this morning, Chris and I met with the water department, and I mean, what we heard from them is that the department's essentially funded through the assessment of water fees that individuals pay. Is the same true for sewer? Like
That's correct.
Coming out of the,
That's true.
so this isn't coming out of the general fund. That this
No.
department is self-funded,
It's
essentially.
totally self-funded. We have a sewer enterprise account. Everyone is paid through the sewer enterprise. All expenses are paid through the sewer enterprise, everything, but I still like to run it by the finance committee anyway.
Sure, thank you.
If I can, John, I think I found the difference here. There's on your salaries, you have part-time clerk and part-time wages, but last year's budget, you only had the part-time clerk. That part-time wages wasn't in last year's budget.
That's it, Sonia, right there. I don't know how that got put in there. We can just take that right out. If you
Okay,
could,
is that a
please.
position that you don't need? Maybe it was a placeholder and then you entered the part-time clerk in addition?
I think so.
Okay, I'll take that out for you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Sonia. I was looking too.
Good catch, Chris.
Now, John, looking at your overtime, that did not get increased. Should I increase that 2%?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry about the typos.
No worries.
Thank you. So we, salaries, I think we've covered that. Any questions on salaries? Any more questions?
I think we're good.
All right. So the next line item would be electricity. Oh, you're already there. You guys are good. No increase, $46,000. Used to fund the 13 pump stations, 2 flow metering chambers, and the office in the garage. Again, these are all self-funded items. Nothing comes out of the general fund. Gas for heat, self-explanatory, heats the office and the garages. And it also provides, we use that to provide oil for our backup generators, natural gas for our backup generators on Summer Street, Hershey Lane, Ashland Street, and Old Farm Road. Every one of our 13 pump stations is backed up with a generator. Some of them run off natural gas, some of them run off of diesel, and we have one that runs off of propane. So that line item funds natural gas for the office, garage, and those 4 pump stations that I mentioned. Building repair and maintenance, same, just general repairs. Sometimes we need to replace a window or ceiling tiles. We kept it the same. Vehicle repairs and maintenance. It's to maintain the sewer department fleet of vehicles, and we have a couple pieces of machinery down there that we use. We use that line item for that. General maintenance budget, same thing, 16,000. We kept it the same. Use that for, we'll often need pump station parts, mechanical sales, volutes, valves, gaskets, anything pump station related. We fund out of that line item right there, number 5252. Alarm, we've kept it the same. I'm thinking maybe at some point we might want to bump it up a little bit, but all of our pump stations have alarms for problems such as mechanical failure, high well alarms, generator running alarms, power fail alarms. They're all backed up with alarms, and we use that line item to fund that. Education and training, all of our employees, our field employees are certified in collection system operation, wastewater operation, confined space, and we use that line item to fund continuing education units. Let's see. Postage. Jeannie, would you like to talk about postage?
It hasn't changed. It's just to send out our lien letters.
Monthly billing.
Yep, monthly billing.
General mailing, things of that nature.
Yep.
Telephone, no change. Cell phone service for all the field staff, sewer department field staff. Those aforementioned alarms get transferred to their cell phones, so they know when we have a pump station problem. Again, the pump stations run 24/7, and we often, like everything else, mechanisms fail. Other purchases services, that's been the same for about, I'd say, 10 years now. We use that. We fund wet well cleaning, flow meter calibration, wastewater testing, generator PMs, manhole frames and covers, and things of that nature out of there. Office supplies, again, we're shared. We're one unit now, so that's been the same. Gas and oil left at the same. Impossible to predict. We kept that the same. Intermunicipal, we dropped that by $165,000 a year based on our latest charges from the city of Brockton. The town does not own their own treatment facility, so we send 95% of our sewer effluent to the city of Brockton and 5% to the town of Rockland. And we have to pay our proportionate share of treatment and transport costs to each town and city. It's difficult to predict, but that's our best estimate right there, 1.2 million. And finally, transfer out is to pay the sewer department's proportionate share of insurance costs and things, workers' comp, things of that nature, to supply to the general fund for the sewer department's proportionate share.
And John, I don't have it at my fingertips, but we just recalculated the transfers out. What we have in here is a placeholder. So these numbers will be updated, and I'll let you know, of course, what your enterprise funds amount is.
That would be great, Sonia, and then we can let the Board of Sewer Commissioners know what our transfer out number is.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, can I ask you a question too? Unless I misheard it, what caused the intermunicipal to go down by $165,000?
It's predicated on how much sewer we send to the city of Brockton and town of Rockland. And lately it hasn't been as much as it has in the past. And also about 4 or 5 years ago, no, it's about 5 years ago, we worked out a new intermunicipal agreement with the city of Brockton, and it actually lowered our treatment costs. And that was and it also increased the amount of sewer capacity we are allotted by 500,000 gallons a day. So it was a great deal for the town of Abington, and all the credit goes to the Board of Sewer Commissioners and others. So that's why we lowered it, just based on our latest bills from the city of Brockton.
Excellent.
In FY 21, our bill was $1,068,000. And Rockland, our bill from Rockland is usually around 70,000. So we think between the 1.068 and the 70, we could get by budgeting 1.2 million for FY 23.
It seems, I guess in this day and age when we're so many folks are working from home more and spending more time at home, it's kind of amazing and great management that you're able to, trend this line item down. It's great.
It's mostly due to the new intermunicipal agreement with the city of Brockton.
Yep.
That number used to be, our bill used to be at sometimes it was 1.3 million, 1.4 million. And we got it down under 1.1 we hammered out a new agreement. It wasn't easy. It was a win-win for the city and the town, and all credit goes to the Board of Sewer Commissioners. And I believe Andy Burbine was on the selectmen at the time, and he was a great deal of help as well.
That was going on for quite a while.
And Mark Jameson, the chairman of the Board of Sewer Commissioners, him and Andy Burbine I think we had 14 meetings with the city, and they took 14 days off each because the meetings were in the middle of the day, and they took 14 days off of their jobs to go meet with the city of Brockton. So all credit is to them too, mostly. That's why we have 500,000 extra gallons a day of sewer capacity and a lower bill. It's probably one of the best deals the town has in a while.
Where was this account before? It apparently is the first year it's been in the sewer.
It's a new name every year. That's why you don't see it. Intermunicipal year 2022, intermunicipal year 2021, intermunicipal year 2020. I wish it was there so you could see.
Yeah,
but it's just not. But in FY 21, the Brockton bill was 1.068. So I think 1.2 is a good number. And that's all I have for sewer. Any questions? And finally, we have Park and Rec. Again, we're pretty much one department now, but there's been no change for a while now in Park and Rec. %2 increase, and that's it. There's not much else there. We have a groundskeeping line item at the bottom, 5460. We use that to buy paint for striping the fit. We're in charge of maintaining all the playing fields, both high school and youth. We use that line item to fund paint, lawnmower parts, stone dust, mound clay, infield dirt, anything like that, and irrigation maintenance. So that's the Park and Rec budget. Any questions?
Any?
None? Okay, is there any way I can share a screen now?
Sure. Abington Cam, can you give John Stone screen sharing ability, please?
Sure can. All right. You should be able to right now.
Do you see it?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet. What am I doing wrong?
Did you open up the screen, John, before?
I did.
And did you click on it and then hit share?
I just shut it. I'm going to open it again real quick.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. We had our own technical difficulties at the beginning too.
Yeah.
I can't do I'm not able to do it at all, which is why Russ is doing it. So.
But I don't see an option to share.
At the bottom, share screen or share content.
Yep. If you move your mouse, it should be down the bottom.
All the way at the bottom of the document?
No, on the Zoom call.
On the Zoom meeting itself.
I'd say might be 3 dots and more.
I got you. I have it. How's that?
There it is.
Perfect.
Perfect.
All right. I tried to send this to the Finance Committee last week. I don't know if anyone got it. Does it look familiar?
Wait a minute. Let me see. I got something, but it didn't look like, wait a minute.
The file might have been too large.
Okay.
It's okay, Barbara. This is what I everybody I need.
I do have it.
All right, this is our capital plan. Our 5-year capital plan. It's required each department have a best we could come up with. Last year, we funded some road work, and it worked out great. Lincoln Street and Hancock Street. You approved it, and it was great. But we have to continue funding our infrastructure because it's not getting any younger. Our equipment's old, our building is old, our roads need upgrading. We get a certain amount from the state every year. It's called Chapter 90 money. We get about $390,000 a year, but it doesn't go very far. We have 221 roads. You'll see down later in the document our road rating list, and we'll get into that then. But anyway, this is our capital plan. We'd like to be able to pave Plymouth Street from Route 123 to the Whitman line. I don't know if any of you have driven that lately, but it's a mess. We need the money. We need the funding. We need to supplement our Chapter 90.
John, you had talked last year, so just for anyone new or anyone that didn't see the discussion, that other towns do
You're right, Barbara.
funding for
every
the
year.
streets in addition to, they either match the Chapter
Absolutely.
90 or
Chapter 90.
they give a
They
certain,
supplement it.
right.
They supplement the Chapter 90. East Bridgewater does it. Rockland does it. Other towns do it. And it's working out well for them. And I think the town needs to continue to invest in our infrastructure. So this is our highway division capital plan. The second one down, if I could go down, I'll show you. This is a estimate to pave Plymouth Street from Route 123 to the Whitman line, $331,000. Now, if we were to just use Chapter 90 for that, it would eat up the whole Chapter 90. We would have nothing left to do any other roads in town or any other road work. So that's the estimate there. I know the Finance Committee in the past has requested estimates, and that's the estimate for that.
Ron, it's a state road, correct?
Nope.
It's not. Route 58 is not
state
a road.
Route 58 is a town-owned road, as is Route 139.
Thank you.
Welcome. And here's our latest road rating. I'm not gonna put you through the whole thing, but any highlighted road has been given a grade of under 5 on a scale of 1 to 10 using the Pazer asphalt management system out of the University.
Means they're pretty bad, correct?
That's correct. So 74 of our 221 roads were given a grade below a 5.
John,
The
we looked at
survey-
this. Thank you. We looked at this last year.
Yes.
How many? You may have just said this, maybe I didn't hear, but how many of those did we end up getting done last year? A couple.
2, Greg.
Two.
Two.
There you go.
2.
We'll be done in no time.
So we need to keep investing in our infrastructure, or we're never going to get ahead. So right now,
I think Jeannie has something.
Yeah, John, we did do the 2 roads that they funded us, but we also did Birch Street. We did 3 other roads.
yes, right, Jeannie.
3
Good
smaller
point.
roads from Chapter 90 funds.
We did, yes, we paved Chapter 90 and a couple other roads through, we paved Birch Street and a couple other roads through Chapter 90 funding.
Yeah.
And we paved Lincoln Street and a
Hancock.
large portion of Hancock Street with the money the Finance Committee granted us last year.
Right.
And it worked out awesome. But we have to continue. We can't stop now.
And
Then,
if
sorry,
I can
John.
jump in. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, and Sonia, this is sort of for you or John, for Scott, any idea on what we might be getting from the infrastructure bill as those funds come down from the state?
I've not heard anything yet.
No, all I know is in the past, we get about $390,000 a year. And as you can see from the estimate, it's not going to get us very far. It never does. Town's growing. We have more roads. Most of the roads, the last time most of these roads were paved was when SOAR was installed in the 80s and 90s. And the life expectancy of a road in the Northeast is probably 15 years. And we're never going to get ahead unless we start keep investing in our road network. We're never going to get ahead. So sorry for the bad news. And the next,
John, is there like a plan that you've ever come up with or put forth anywhere that would show if we did 10 a year, we could get to this, and then we know that we're going to have to replace 2 a year? Is there anything like that we've ever looked at planning for or anything?
it's a good question, Greg, but the problem is asphalt the price of asphalt is solely predicated on the price of oil. So if we could predict the price of oil 3 years from now, we could probably do that, but I have no idea. Like that estimate from Keating or TL Edwards is probably going to be different next summer than it was a few months ago. It's solely based on the price of oil.
I don't even mean more money wise, because I get that that's going to happen. Just more of a look, we can get all of these roads done by this time. This is roughly the idea it's going to cost.
It's a good idea, Greg. I haven't done that yet.
We can look into
The only
that.
reason why is because this thing's been on your thing for 3 years. We just started to, I know you guys were taking a little bit of money and doing whatever you could do, but
Yes.
we're for the first time, it sounds like we're trying to figure it out. I think it might be, or at least would be helpful for me. I hope it's helpful for other people to know, like, could we actually get 5 roads or bigger roads or big projects or something like that done in a year? Or is it just completely impossible money-wise?
It's a good question, Greg. We'll have to look into that going forward, definitely.
And one of the things that we'll be talking about in the future is, we do have money with the Recovery Plan Act money. That maybe we want to put some of that into this also. And it looks like we have a lot more flexibility with how we spend that money. So a certain portion of it, I think we could use to enhance some of these projects.
And now we are looking at our fleet list, our DPW fleet list. Anything in blue is over 20 years old. Anything in yellow is over 15 years old. It just gives you a general idea of what we have for equipment. It's not too good. We need to invest in that as well. And here is the truck that I'd like to have replaced through the capital plan this year. If I can go back. It's a 1998 6-wheel dump truck.
Sorry.
The frame is cracked and the floor is falling apart. It's one of our 4 big trucks that we use to combat snow and ice. I don't really we've repaired it and repaired it and repaired it. It's almost beyond repair, as you can see by the picture. So that's number 2 on our capital plan. So I would like to replace that item before it becomes a problem for one of our workers. It's a year away from officially becoming an antique. Anything
I was
over
just going to
25.
say, the kids would say that's a truck from the 90s.
Yes. Anything over 25 years, any vehicle over 25 years is officially an antique. That's an antique.
Can we get any money by selling it as an antique next year and put that money toward the new truck?
I'd like to. And then next on the capital plan, design of Randolph Street, Old Randolph Street intersection. Go back down. That's the narrative on the intersection. We were awarded, which basically amounts to a grant through the state to construct a set of lights at the intersection of Randolph Street, Old Randolph Street, and Chestnut Street. It's the most dangerous intersection in town. There's been
Awful.
It's awful.
And people taking their kids to school and
It is
bus,
awful,
it's
Barbara.
awful.
So we have essentially what amounts to a $4 million grant, but the town has to come up with $550,000 in design costs. We have to fund design. The state pays for the intersection improvements, traffic signals, realignment. And that's just the narrative I wrote. It's the most dangerous intersection in town. Everything else below here it shows how it's the most dangerous intersection in town. We performed a road safety audit. that document there shows how the state approved it and Old Colony Planning Council approved it as part of their TIP program, which the state and federal government funds these projects. The cost estimate is $3.7 million.
And John, I just want to point out that the state deemed it this. We're not. There's other intersections in town that are equally as dangerous, but this is what the state has said, correct? With their study that.
Exactly, Barbara. If I can go back.
Because there's a couple that come to mind that are where there's been deaths and really dangerous intersections, but the state has deemed this to be our most dangerous.
It is, Barbara. The screenshot. I hope you can see the screenshot there.
I can see it.
Number one. It's the most dangerous intersection in town. Old Colony Planning Council graciously did a study for us and ranked all the intersections by accidents, unfortunately. The third one we're already taken care of. We paid for the design out of Chapter 90. And it's on the tip list, scheduled to break ground in federal year 2026. So would like to add Randolph and Chestnut and Old Randolph to the capital plan for design, because it's very dangerous for those who have driven through it. Let's see.
And walkers for school there. I mean, I know they have the crossing guard, but.
And then I attached the road safety audit. The state actually recommended the town install traffic lights in 2011. It's written down in here. But for some reason we never did anything. But it's on the state tip list now. So it's pretty much a $4 million grant. If we can come up with the 550,000 design costs.
How long is that money on the table, John?
If we don't show progress, 25% design, 50% design, public hearings over the course of the next couple of years, they will remove from the tip. And then we'll be on the hook for whatever improvements we want to make as a town. So in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. I'm sure if you ask anyone that lives over in that area, that they'd agree. But I've attached the road safety audit. Maybe we could put it on the website and people can look at it. The Old Colony Planning Council did this for us.
Yeah, if you can get that over to Tony, we'll definitely get it up on the website.
And here is our MS4 capital plan. This is mandatory. It's the new, well, not new anymore. It's the stormwater laws. These are requirements. I was going to ask you, Scott, maybe ARPA could pay for this, some of this?
Yeah, we can look at it.
Stormwater.
Yeah.
Well, that's that. These are mandatory. It's a 10-year permit, started in 2019, I believe, and it runs to 2028. And this is what we'd like in the park. And that's what we'd like for the sewer division. Obviously, self-funded, come out of the sewer enterprise fund. But I'd like to show you guys what we're looking at for capital projects. We actually have a meeting with the Collins Center tomorrow at 10 o'clock to go over these items. And then lastly, but not least, I like to share this every year with the finance committee to show them where we stand with our sewer rates. We are pretty much in the bottom 25%, $740 a year. These are communities that participated in the survey. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. And that is my budget, our budget.
And what about articles?
If I could just add that our building is a disgrace and we need to come up with a plan to build a new building. It's not safe to house the millions of dollars of equipment we have, and more importantly, the great field staff we have working over there. So we need to come up with a plan. I talked to Scott today and would like to get the finance committee over there at some point to tour the building and tour other facilities in town, if possible.
On Central Street, right? That's what you're talking about, John?
Yes, Barbara.
Yeah, that roof. Put it this way, I've been on the committee for 13 years, and that building and roof has been talked about every single year.
It's nobody's fault. It's just something that need to be addressed at some point.
So,
recession and
John, I had mentioned this before, but or Scott, we're looking at spending $30-ish million on fire station. There's really no way, no room that we can at least house some of these. I mean, why can't the whole department get shifted over there? I mean, again, we're spending so much money that obviously we've voted and said yes to $3 million, so it's going through. Why wouldn't we be able to tell these people who are going to build it that we need to house, a couple pieces of equipment or something has to be able to be done if we're spending that amount of money. I'm not saying we're not going to spend a little bit more, but there's just no way, it's impossible to do that.
I don't know what the answer is, Greg. I'm not sure what the answer is.
But I mean, you're talking a lot of equipment, and actually, as John said, I think it would be good to schedule a site meeting down there, and if this committee could take a look not only at the amount of equipment that he has and the amount of building, but even some of the other issues that are facing them, and some of the the fields that the DPW takes care of, Island Grove. It'd be worth your while to spend a few hours on a Saturday.
actually, Greg, you are the liaison for that department. Would you be able to,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask, would you be able to possibly try to set up a tour, maybe work out something with John for a tour for us?
Sure.
We'll wear our warm jackets and mittens.
I think it's a great idea. I really do. We'll get the coffee and donuts or whatever it takes. I think it's a great idea that Scott had.
Scott, is that something?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is that something that the Collins Center, you've mentioned them in the sort of review of buildings and capital plan, is that something they could be involved in as well?
Well, they're definitely going to look at it as part of, the capital plan, but it's so much as pretty much like what you see that John has put into his capital plan that, we should spend money on a study. And we pretty much know what the results of that study is going to be. The following year is going to be a building that's could be 12 million, could be 20 million. I think Greg's right, though, and I don't think anybody's opposed. I think John and I had a conversation about it also, that if there's any way possible that we could do something with the existing property that we have, we could co-locate fire with them if it helps, if it makes sense, we'd love to do it. It's just unfortunately we're starting at a point where fire is already well into their study and where they thought they needed their location and schematics of what their needs are. So it's kind of, we're behind the 8 ball on that, but it's definitely something that we can still look at.
And I was even thinking of like offices too. Like, so if, this is a big building that's going in, again, to add a couple hundred more square feet for people to have. I'm just trying to think of how to consolidate spending so much money and also capitalize on everybody or as many people or as many departments being able to be in some new digs that isn't falling. I've been in this building. The building he's talking about is just terrible.
Yeah.
But you know, it just, I don't know. It's just, I think somebody had said maybe we had looked at rebuilding over there or something, and it just wasn't worth it, or so. I don't know, but something definitely needs to be done. I'm just trying to think, if we're in the middle of doing something, can we go to the people and sort of negotiate with them and say, hey, in order to add another, 1,200 square feet, we're going to give you, I don't know, 500 grand, 200 grand, 100 grand, something.
Hey, Scott, don't I recall that, and again, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but don't I recall that when we've talked about this in the past, that kind of the general consensus is, as a town, we feel like it's going to be skin to the teeth just to get the fire station through at what the fire station is going to be. And while I think everybody unanimously believes that fiscally it would overwhelmingly be a great cost savings to co-locate more than one, co-locate, more than one department together. It's just that, it would almost definitely, it would face like insurmountable ability to be able to be voted in, because it would just be so much more money that voters would not get past the sticker shock. Is that kind of the general
the town's
idea?
already locked in there, Russ, right?
Well, the town's not locked into anything. The town committed to go forward with design, but I mean, we're not 100% sure that the location that we're looking at is going to pan out, which will change the design of the building.
Spent?
What's that?
How much have we spent?
We haven't spent. I don't know. We haven't spent anything yet. We've allocated about $3 million towards design. We've probably not even. Maybe I don't even think we've spent $500,000 yet. We got a P&S on a piece of property. We haven't bought it yet. There's a lot of contingencies on it. Although I think we should buy it anyways. But that being said, we've got a ways to go, and I know that in the past this was something that was talked about, but the scope and the magnitude of the DPW facility is not like it's just adding a few hundred square feet. You're talking tens of thousands of square feet of storage space, of workspace.
1,200 was for the offices.
But the
1,200 for like people with offices or something like that.
Which we've looked at for other offices, because we're already at, we're over capacity at town hall. We don't have any archives. So we have embraced the idea of perhaps moving the building department and the health department into this new structure if we can afford it, just so we can free up some space in town hall.
Yeah, but this is a horse of a different color. This is it's going to become a safety issue in town.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say.
I think it already is a safety issue.
Yeah, it's already a safety issue. I this is different than town hall and everything else. I think, once finance committee sees the facility, you might have a different opinion.
It's not a matter of cramped space.
It's a matter of safety.
When you have cramped space, at least you do have a safe building.
Well, I think you're missing my point. My point is, we're not talking 1,200 square feet of space that you're adding to a building. And
totally
to a building,
agree,
the fire station building as designed, that's about the most extra we can get out of it on the lots that we have, that we've chosen, if it was North Street or if it was Glenowitz Way. If you want to add the DPW facility to it, that's huge. It's going to it's probably going to double the cost of the project, which is fine. And it could probably be done over in the existing DPW site. But don't expect it to be just adding a small amount to that project. It will double it. And again, like Russ was saying, I don't even know that $30 million is going to pass the town meeting, despite the fact that we spent, even if we spent $3 million. That's still a big, tough sell when people are going to look at specifically how that's going to affect their tax bill.
I just want to take the opportunity to point out this is an exact situation that having something like a town planner helps with, in my opinion. Any more questions?
At town meeting, though, I did stand up and say, you are currently voting on a $33 million project right now. So for everybody's knowledge, it really wouldn't be smart to vote on a $3 million project, have money spent, and then nix it. So I'm pretty sure most of the people heard that. I'm assuming everybody's intelligent and they understood it. So I don't know why we'd then go back on it.
Because you spoke to town meeting.
Which
And
is
then-
only how many people when we get
Right.
a quorum.
No, but
We got to go
Those
to
are
the
the-
ballot. This actually has to be voted at a ballot to spend the 30, which means you get a lot more people who show up for the ballot than show up
Sure.
at town meeting.
If you're lucky, those 150, 175 people that might have been at town meeting might each tell a friend. And then you still got thousands of people that are going to go to the ballot and maybe not have all the information that they need.
Yeah, I've seen these things go down before.
We hope, I hope that's not the case, but
Yeah.
you know, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more education and discussion about it, more advertising, I guess,
Yeah.
as we get closer to that. But
Speaking as somebody who almost died in a fire, I'll be very disappointed if it doesn't get voted in, personally. Very personally.
But Greg raises good points. You might be able to get more bang for your buck by combining a couple projects at once. I don't know. It's a good point.
Undoubtedly.
definitely,
But thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. All I can say is we need to invest in our infrastructure and our equipment. I appreciate it.
So John, Greg will reach out to you and set up, we'll maybe throw out some dates that are good for both of you and we can see what's good for the committee, the majority of the committee, so that we can get in there and get a tour.
Absolutely. I think it was a great idea on Scott's part. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time, John, and for all your hard work. We really do appreciate everything that you do for the town of Abington.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Real quick, John.
Thank you, Scott.
John, articles? On the warrant, do you have warrant articles?
Barbara, no, I wasn't sure how to differentiate between a capital item and a warrant item. So we just put everything on the capital item
Okay.
until we meet with the Collins Center tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds
And
good.
They could tell us which direction to go. And that was another great idea on Scott's part, the Collins Center. I think an impartial look on the town's needs is much needed.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Scott, and do you,
All right. Thanks, Steve.
sorry, I know that, again, Scott or somebody else might have the answer to this, but I know that we might not know how much money we're getting. But has anyone given somewhat of an idea of date range of this infrastructure plan? Does anybody have an idea of when that might be coming down?
I've heard nothing except that, there's all these, all this plan and infrastructure starting at the federal level and then at the state level, but nothing about how it's going to trickle out and trickle down to the state, or to the municipalities. I haven't seen anything on the MMA sites. Haven't heard anything from the legislatures yet, but I'm sure we will in the near future.
The only reason I was even asking is to figure, obviously we all need to, but you especially need to know when this is happening to see what year it might start to work. So that's the only reason that I didn't know if anybody had an idea of, next year, the year after, when it.
You know what happens too, and what's like some of it will come at us as we'll start seeing grant opportunities opening up. So it won't necessarily be that the state's going to come out and say, "Hey, Abington, we're going to give you $5 billion, $5 million, $500,000." What's going to happen is there going to be some sort of a competitive grant process that we can, get ourselves into, like the things that John's done before that's gotten us money. So, and then when they come up, we're very aggressive about going after them. But you've seen them. You've seen
And he
they
didn't
typically
mention that
come with a
bridge.
match. The what? The bridge?
Yeah, got 100%. Yeah, the bridge. I know you didn't mention the bridge just now. Did we say yes to fixing that bridge? No, I just don't. I just forget.
Yes,
Yeah,
Greg.
you're
It's,
on here still, John. Yeah, go ahead.
We're gonna break ground in the spring. It's just a long permitting process with the state. Yes, the finance committee did approve
Perfect.
that, and I greatly appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I just want. I thought we did, but then I didn't. I just
No, you're
didn't,
right. I should have mentioned it. I should have.
We should also try to. Again, a town planner would probably help with this, but we should also try to make a big deal out of that. There's a lot of people that go to that. It's a cool spot. There's always Christmas stuff being done. Somebody should try to figure that out when it's actually done.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody? Any other
Please
questions?
don't call me.
All right. Thanks very much, John. Thanks, Jeannie. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, so we're gonna move right along and we're gonna move on to Sonia, the treasurer collector.
Alrighty.
Slash
Thank you for
finance
being
director.
patient, Sonia.
What's that, Barbara?
Thank you for being patient.
Oh, that's okay. I'm going to be here anyway.
And you have company.
Yeah. I forgot to feed her before the meeting started, so she's not happy. Okay, so I think mine starts on page 10. If someone is able to share. As I was going through this this morning, I found that when my descriptions made sense, but the figures didn't necessarily match my salaries. I think I put them in as placeholders and then forgot to come back and fix my numbers from my estimates. So the salary information will change by just a little bit. It'll be less than $3,000 more. And that's just after the clerical union was, their new contract was ratified. So updating everything there. The two clerks, one of these is an error. It's only a 2% for the larger amount because this person is already at the top step. So they don't get a step, they only get the 2% COLA. The other clerk does get a step, which is 2% plus the 2% COLA, so about 4%. I'm requesting 3% for the assistant treasurer collector. She's been here for 2 years now, and she's done a really wonderful job. She was hired just before the pandemic began. She does all of our payroll right now. We're hoping that now that I'm taking on more duties, we can move payroll to a different position so that I can move more treasurer collector types of duties to the assistant treasurer collector. It's very uncommon in municipalities to have the assistant treasurer collector also doing payroll because payroll is so time intensive. It really eliminates a lot of the help that assistant treasurer collector can provide and time for training so that if I were out, she'd be able to step right in. So I'm hoping for 3% just because she's done such a great job. I think she absolutely deserves more. But obviously we work in the municipal world. And so I'm hoping that will go through, but I understand that most non-union personnel are only getting 2%. So I'm cognizant of that. And then I also requested 2% for myself. You'll notice that there's a bit of a jump here from last year, and that is because right now, part of my salary is being paid from the self-insurance health trust fund. Because there's so much work involved in managing that trust fund, we are using a small portion of the town's share of the trust fund for administrative costs for my time. So we are hoping to get away from the self-insurance in the next year. And so the idea here would be we would no longer be using that for my salary. So all of my salary would be in this budget.
Sonia?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
I just was wondering, so you said that you were hoping, what was the change that you were saying was going to happen to payroll? Was the assistant no longer going to do the payroll?
That is the hope. Yes. we've put out a job description. We're hoping to hire a part-time payroll clerk. Not clerk, it wouldn't be in the clerical union. It would be, we're calling it a payroll technician, part-time, that would be moving to the accounting office and overseen by the town accountant.
Okay.
So it would take that out of my office, take, a good portion of my job is answering payroll questions, even though I'm not the one doing all of the payroll. Payroll is so detailed that almost every day there's a weird situation. What do we do in this weird situation that we've not seen in the last 5 years? And so there's a lot of interruptions just to answer questions related to payroll. So they would save a lot of time. Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of experience with this and can 150% agree with every word that you're saying. So no doubt. And it makes sense to move it where you're saying to move it. So yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Chris, did you have something?
No, Sonia anticipated my question. It is already answered.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The sick leave incentive line, this will also change a little bit due to the new clerical union contract. It will go up slightly. We were able to make a change to how the sick leave incentive is calculated, and it does potentially make it more expensive, but it makes it streamlined and consistent. The previous contract had 3 very different types of sick leave incentives, ranging from a day's pay to an extra personal day to $50 bonus. And 2 of them were calculated on a calendar year and 1 was on a fiscal year. It was very complicated. So we were able to get it. So there's 6 months, and a calendar year. And the bonus is the same for each of those. So it makes it much easier for payroll, especially, to keep track of and make sure that we're not overpaying or underpaying anybody for their sick leave incentive. And that takes care of my salaries budget. The rest of it is fairly straightforward. Rentals and leases is just the postage meter. This contract is going to be good for another 2 years, I think. So this number will not be changed for this year. Education and training. Now this kind of goes hand in hand with the travel and the dues and fees budget. I cut these back significantly last year when we realized that our revenue figures were not going to be where they traditionally were because of the pandemic. And knowing that we weren't going to be going anywhere, we cut these budgets significantly. I'm hoping that we can bring them back up for this year to get back on track with our training. We were able to go to our annual school this summer, and so I anticipate that being the case next year as well. And that's really the most important one. I can go over what's in this if you guys like, but if you don't need that level of detail, then I won't, but I'll leave it up to you guys.
How do we feel as far as
I'll just keep going then. I mean, these are basically just standard training so that we're up to date on compliance, changes in law, and best practices. The purchase services, this is primarily payroll. Which obviously the payroll budget would be transferred over to accounting if we do end up hiring somebody. Payroll, tax bill processing. Let me see, let me look at my notes. This really is the largest section of my budget. Tax bill printing and our lockbox. So anytime someone mails a tax payment to the PO box on the bill, those are automatically processed through by the lockbox facility. So of course we have to pay for that. And then a contingency for any additional programming that comes up. You know, occasionally Affordable Care Act, for instance, had a rule change last year, which required some programming costs for the payroll company. So things like that just kind of come up that we need to be able to pay for. But there really isn't a large contingency planned in there. Postage is almost all tax bills, real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle. We do, let's see, about 6,000 bills twice a year for real estate and personal property. And then motor vehicle, we do about 15,000 at least in the first commitment, and then several thousand throughout the year as people purchase cars. Office supplies, I'm requesting to increase this this year. You can see that we've been over the last couple of years. I feel like the last couple of years we always had a calculator break, and those adding machines they're not super cheap. And if we're already close to our budget, that'll throw us over for sure. So I'm hoping we can increase this this year. And then again, travel and dues and fees, those are related to the education and training. The travel is both for hotel and mileage to trainings, and also for our day-to-day mileage going to the bank. Dues and fees, I'm keeping that lower. I had previously paid for subscriptions for GFOA, but I'm finding that the base subscription isn't all that helpful unless you're willing to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for trainings that they offer that are extremely expensive, and to me not worth it when I can get most of what I need with our local associations. So I did take that out. All right, so that's it for my treasurer collector. Are there any questions on that before we move on to my next section? My next section is tax title, and that's on page 16. So as you know, we held an auction this year, which was great. We had several tax foreclosure properties that we were able to auction off. We also had some surplus properties that are town-owned. Those are handled very differently and paid for differently. So we could only post our tax foreclosure auction expenses to this account. Everything else went to the town's legal retainer account. Now that the auction is over, I don't need quite as much money for that, so I'm able to decrease it for that. But we also made a big push the last couple of years to try to clean up some of these tax title balances. I know I talked about this at last year's meeting, but we were able to get our payment plan bylaw passed at town meeting, which allows people to get on their a payment plan, and if they follow through over a 5-year term, they get a portion of their interest waived at the end. I've got several people on payment plans right now. Those who chose not to do payment plans, some have, it kind of spurred them on to just go ahead and maybe refinance. We had a few sell, which then of course the taxes get paid off at that point. And we sent several properties also to land court to begin foreclosure proceedings. I don't have any that have come through yet as a final decree. I do have a couple that may come through soon. I'm really hoping, though, that the owner will choose instead to sell the properties, pay off the taxes, and then we don't have to worry about doing another auction. They'll go on the tax rolls immediately. That's always the best case scenario, is that we don't foreclose. I'd much rather someone, if it's a home, stay in their home, try to find a way to help them. There aren't a lot of resources for homeowners for past due taxes. There are a lot of resources for homeowners who are behind on their mortgage, but not so much for their taxes. So there's not a whole lot of help that we can offer other than a payment plan or a deferral if they're over 65 and under income limits, or other exemptions that the assessors can provide as well. So we do what we can, but in a lot of cases, the best option for the homeowner is to sell the property if they can't afford the taxes, unfortunately. But at least they get to keep all of their equity, and that's really important. as well. In Massachusetts, a tax foreclosure, the homeowner does not get to keep the excess from auction. So when we auction off a property for a tax foreclosure, we keep everything. Nothing goes back to the homeowner. So I always advise people, if you absolutely cannot pay the taxes, your best bet is going to be to sell, because then you keep the excess money after the taxes are paid. And typically that is usually what it comes down to. So bottom line, we get to decrease this budget a little bit. I'm not going to need as much, but I do have some cases still in land court, so I don't want to decrease it too much to where I'm not able to pay the legal fees. This one is a tough one. It's the hardest part of the job. I don't like sitting with a homeowner who owes $50,000 in taxes and is beside themselves. It's really, really difficult. Okay. After that, I will move into towards the end of the budgets. I'll start at page 83. These are going to be some of our townwide accounts. First one being retirement, and this is for the Plymouth County retirement assessment. This is determined when they do their actuarial valuations. The last one was done in 2020, and our assessment for this coming July is about 3.4 million. We have the option of paying all at once in July or paying twice a year, and they split it up in two, but then if you have excess interest basically that you're paying if you do it that way. So we pay it all at once in July so that we can have the lower rate. So it saves the town money to do it that way. And the town has always had sufficient cash flow to continue to do this. I checked this again today to make sure that the figure is still good. It is. I know they are doing another assessment. I've been assured that fiscal year 23's number will not change, but just to be safe, we'll continue checking the Plymouth County website to make sure that that is the case. This is all driven by full-time pensionable salaries. So as salaries go up, retirement cost does as well. The next page is for unemployment. Unemployment, we typically budget 70,000. It's usually pretty close. In 2019, the only amount we spent was for the consultant that we use to help us file our responses, help attend hearings and appeals if needed. That was an anomaly. I've never had a year where we never had a single unemployment bill. That was really interesting. But that certainly has not been the case since then, especially with the pandemic. You can see what we've posted to this account. During the pandemic, we had CARES Act funding that was able to help us with a lot of the unemployment. The interesting thing about municipal unemployment is that we're reimbursable, which means whatever the state pays out in unemployment benefits for our employees, we pay back dollar for dollar. We don't pay unemployment tax here on our payroll. So we pay what they pay. We also have to pay any unemployment claims related to our past or current employees, regardless of whether or not the unemployment claim is due to their employment here at the town. So if we have a part-time employee who's also part-time employed with another employer, that employer lets them go, we have to pay a portion of that unemployment claim, even though we've continued to employ them at their number of hours that they normally had. So it's very difficult to estimate at times because especially during the pandemic, while we didn't furlough very many people, none at the town, a few at the school, but that really was it. We kept our people in the building as much as we could. If they weren't in the building, we were still paying them. So our unemployment costs were very low, but where everyone who had other jobs were losing them at such high rates, our unemployment costs were very expensive. In fiscal year 21, the CARES Act paid for over $77,000 in unemployment claims that were directly related to COVID. And this year in fiscal year 22, we had another $7,400 that we were able to pass on to the CARES Act funding because they were directly related to COVID as well. So people who were still out, excuse me. So that's almost $85,000 in unemployment claims that we would not have had otherwise. And luckily we did not have to hit the general fund budget for those. So thank goodness for CARES Act funding. But CARES Act funding is over now. So continue to look at it. If we see COVID unemployment go up again, we may have to discuss a different funding option, but for now, we're planning on just moving all unemployment claims back into the general fund like normal. All right, the next one is everybody's favorite. This is the health insurance budget. So this figure in here, I think we're going to be able to decrease a tad to right at $7 million. And that would be based on what we think we'll have for rates next year, which is about a 5% increase. We've got some meetings later this month, well, later this week actually, to discuss more with our broker to see where they think we're falling with our self-insurance. Like I mentioned earlier, we're hoping that we won't be self-insured next year. We've obtained quotes, a quote from Maya Health Insurance for health, dental, and vision, and they were very favorable. But we're also wanting to speak, of course, with our broker, and I know Scott's been having conversations with Tom O'Brien over at Mayflower to see what our option would be there, to see if that would be a better option. Certainly, we want to get the best deal we can in a stable option. We certainly want it to be stable.
Are we finding it difficult to continue to self-insure?
Well, the problem with self-insuring on our own is that we're completely exposed. If we have a lot of high claims, of course, we have stop loss to help with those very high claims. But as claims in general increase, then that means the rates that we charge increase. What the town pays has to increase as well. So, not to mention, there's a lot of work involved in self-insurance. Like I mentioned, part of my salary is being paid from it, and it is a lot of work to keep track of all of this. Whereas if we were to go with a large group, they would be handling all of that administrative work, and we would just be remitting premiums and keeping track of employee deductions, making sure that we're collecting enough from employees, making sure that our bills are correct. All of that work will continue, but all of the actual trust fund management and accounting would be able to come off of my plate.
And what do we think the cost difference would be? Well, I know you're still shopping around and discussions, but for the change in dollar amount?
Well, with our Maya quote, they're quoting a 5% increase over our current rates with no buy-in. So we wouldn't pay anything extra except just the rates, which is a fantastic deal. So the cost is really just the cost of the premiums, and that's a 5% increase. Does that answer your question?
It does. Scott, is this something that you talk with employees about after, before, during?
It'll be seamless for the employees. Their plans won't change. It'll still be Blue Cross Blue Shield. So they'll design and they've worked with us to sort of make sure that we have comparative plans. So as far as they know, I mean, it'll be seamless, and there won't be a big rate increase. The town, in the position that we're in right now, it's just, I don't think anybody ever contemplated that we'd stay self-insured on our own. It just doesn't make sense. It's not a good place to be. And I think, not having been a part of it, but I'm guessing that initially the thought was that we would partner with another one or two communities of similar size, similar claims.
Was at the time it was thinking about trying to some type of consortium or group.
Yeah, that was exactly the plan, and that just has not panned out the way we had hoped. And so I think we're at the point where we have to make a decision of where we want to move.
Okay, thank you.
This is for insurance?
This is for health insurance. Mhm.
I thought we were net positive on the health insurance.
What do you mean by that?
So we cover, I don't know, like the people that paid in, whatever did get paid out, we kept. Unless I'm on a different planet, I know 100% we've been told that in previous years.
So this line item here is for the town share of health insurance premiums for our employees. So we have a few different plans that employees can choose from, and the town pays typically 75 or I'm sorry, 75 or 70% of the plan's cost. So this is what this number is here for. That money goes into the trust fund. The employees share, the 25 or 30%, also goes into the trust fund, and the trust fund is what pays the claims administration fees from Blue Cross, additional fees that may be charged on that, stop loss, and then the claims themselves. We do have a healthy balance there, but claims are rising, and we are starting to get to a point where because our claims are not as good as they were when we left Mayflower, we're creeping up to a point where we're going to have to be looking at larger increases. For fiscal year 22, we decided to not increase our rates as much as our broker and was telling us we should, because we decided that we would use some of that healthy surplus to bring down the rate a little bit, see how it goes. Brokers are typically a little conservative. So, it's very possible that we won't need to eat a lot of surplus. But if we do, we really weren't in a position to increase this budget by the percentage that they were advising. So we reduced it a little bit, knowing that we have that buffer available. And that's what that buffer is for. We can't do that every year, though. And so if we are continually trying to buy down the rate because we can't afford it, then there's a problem there. We need to make a decision, and going to a larger group that's going to be more stable, where we can pool our claims with, you might remember, Scott, how many towns Maya works with. I mean, it's almost half of the state.
Yeah.
So
100 and something, I'm guessing 130 minimum.
Yeah, at least. So it would allow us to see, more stable increases from year to year. At least that's the hope.
Not only that, but Maya, again, they offer a lot of amenities, so to speak, that go with their program. There's a lot of help that you get from them. There's a lot of administrative that comes with it, and it comes without an additional cost.
I think the sooner you move, the better, personally.
I'm with you.
Our biggest concern, ultimately, it's not the extra work. It's not it's just that it's the exposure. If, we start getting way too many claims, then something's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Any other questions about health insurance?
So what are we doing about OPEB? I mean, that's
OPEB. We have a trust fund set up for OPEB. We have traditionally funded a small amount every year from free cash, but we don't have a full funding plan or schedule for OPEB. No dedicated funding source for OPEB, but it is something that the town recognizes as important. We need to be funding it, but we don't have a large balance in that trust fund at the moment. It's something that the bond rating agencies always ask about. What's your plan? And we don't have a real solid plan. I know that there's been talk, once our retirement obligation is fully funded, that some of the money we're paying to retirement, maybe we can redirect to OPEB. That's not going to happen for another 10 years. And we don't know exactly what the retirement system will do in terms of what the town's share will be after it's fully funded. So that's not something we can necessarily hang our hat on it either.
But we're not planning for that operationally. I mean, it's an $80 million liability on the books right now.
Correct.
For the town.
Mm-hmm.
And is it reflected anywhere in the town budget to deal with it operationally?
No, there's nothing coming out of the general fund budget to fund it out of our normal operating budget. Right now, all of our retiree health insurance is paid as we go from year to year out of this health insurance line item.
Right. And the liability, the longer we wait, as everybody knows, it's just going to get
It will continue
larger. Yeah, it's going to continue to grow.
Mhm.
And we're just kicking the can down the road, putting this on somebody else. And we're not dealing with it now.
Correct.
So-
We don't have a full funding plan for OPEB, and it's something that we definitely do need.
And
Yeah, I
are we
mean-
were required to have a, by a certain year, certain amount?
No, there is no requirement that OPEB be funded. The pension liability does have to be funded, and so
Okay.
we're on a schedule to have it be funded by 2031. We could extend out if the county decided to take a vote to extend that schedule out. They can. I think we have until technically 2040 to have that done, which may or may not happen. I can't speak to what will happen at that point, but it is possible that it could be extended if the pension liabilities grow so much in the next few years that towns are not able to pay for it out of their annual budget.
Okay, thank you, Sonia.
Is there any consideration to changing what we offer as post-employment benefits?
Well, there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion on that. Our retirees, once they are Medicare eligible, they move on to a plan called MedX, and the cost of MedX is significantly less than an active plan. But there are other options we could go for that would be cheaper for the town. I believe Medicare Advantage is one of the types that we could move towards. So there are options. We haven't looked at that in detail.
I guess I'm just trying to understand if this is a budget process and we don't address it, we don't deal with it, we're just pushing it off, and like it's not going to get better, it's only going to get worse. I mean, if the liability is $80 million now, I mean, and the thing is that depending on what the rate is, it could be higher than that depending on what the rate is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
It's a scary proposition. And we're not alone. I mean, all the cities and towns are. I mean,
Yes.
we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
But
And all cities and towns are in the same boat where we're required to fund our pension liability. So that is definitely happening. And then the OPEB is an additional cost. Now, there are some towns who are aggressively funding their OPEB. I think I've even heard that some have fully funded theirs, or at least are very close. But it required a significant investment from their budgets to do so.
right, they built it in as an operational cost, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Scott, is that something that we can look at?
Yeah, I'm absolutely
thoughts?
looking at it. I think we've had some discussions on it, and especially as part of our financial policies. It's just finding that funding source these past couple of years, and any extra funding sources has been a bit difficult. So,
But I mean, anything's better than nothing.
well, one of the considerations that we've had, and depending on what happens with the as some of these other cannabis operations open up, is that we can maybe have percentages of those revenues dedicated towards some of these things.
Thank you.
I think Greg was telling me that this could be fully funded from that source of income.
I know I didn't want to bring it up, but
Yeah, just because somebody mentioned it, how many millions are we at this point?
I don't have that number of how many millions yet.
I'm assuming we're still at 0 millions, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Well,
It's a fraction of a million.
Right.
Speaking of field trips, Scott, there's another idea.
I'll see if I can arrange that one.
Do we have any other questions on the health insurance or the OPEB issue for Sonia or Scott, for that matter? Okay. I don't think so.
All right, so the next one is the next page for life insurance. This one's pretty straightforward. We don't see a whole lot of movement in this account, so I was able to bring it down a little bit. I don't want to bring it down too much, and then we have 10 new employees sign up for it. But I think this will be a safe figure. The next page is for Medicare. This one is always the most challenging to predict because it's directly based on wages, but not necessarily a straight percentage of wages because there are so many deductions that come out on before Medicare is applied. So it's an estimate. Hopefully there's enough there. In a lot of years, there's not. What I typically do is I take the last year of actuals that we have, so 21, and then I do a percentage to estimate 22, and then another percentage to estimate 23, and that's how I came up to the 475. And I think my percentage that I used, I didn't do a formula. I can't tell you. I think it was about 6% year over year to try to get to this number, and hopefully that will be enough. But if there are new positions added, we probably will need to adjust this figure.
I will note that the expended versus the allocated is remarkably accurate.
And that is because we typically need to do a FinCom transfer to cover the excess.
I figured there was something going on.
Yep.
Sonia, so does that number take into account like the positions we're looking to fill in the police department and anything else like that?
No, it's not. It's looking at actuals from fiscal year 21 and projecting them forward with a hefty increase, assuming that there would be additional positions.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I were to increase it, 2 or 3%, I would be well under.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then that's it for me. That's my last one.
Anyone have any questions for Sonia? All good?
If we wanted to look at debt, we can pull up those spreadsheets. And we can talk about that briefly. I won't go into a whole lot of detail. There's so much on these, but this should look familiar to those of you who've been on the committee for a couple of years. I do have on here, you can see at the bottom, projects that were recently approved that we have not done borrowings for. So I have estimates in there just to keep us on track so that they're not forgotten about and to make sure that we're budgeting properly, knowing that we are going to be doing some issuances here. So for those projects that are newer, I'm planning to do a short-term borrowing because the amounts are not very large. I would not want to do a bond issue for these amounts. All the projects that were approved the year before, we did go out to borrow. We did a full bond issue last February. And so those are those other tax levy projects there in the middle. And then on this page, we have our sewer and our water. You can see the sewer force main replacement. That's still in an estimated holding pattern right now. We are funding that one through the state revolving fund from the Clean Water Trust. We've gotten our interim loan note approved, so we're able to submit to the state, to DEP for reimbursement for what we spent so far, and those are 0% loans. And then once the project is just about done, they will do full bond issue on our behalf, and we will repay at 2%. So a much better deal than we'd ever be able to get if we went out and did our own bond issue. The sewer main replacement and the water bonds, these debt numbers are all paid by the enterprise fund reserves. So these figures on this page are not coming from the general fund budget.
We don't really have anything falling off this year.
Not yet.
Like
No, if you scroll up, we do have a couple that are coming off. Well, not on this one, but there is, I think let's see, the police station fiscal year 27 is the last year. So what you see is all that will completely pay off the police station. And then the senior center and those really old high school windows and doors, those will just have another year, fiscal year 28, and then those will be completed as well. Those are debt exclusion. So the taxpayers are going to see the benefit of those coming off.
Unless the assessments go up again.
Yes. Yes. If another debt exclusion gets approved, then that will wipe out those savings. But of course, there would be the benefit of having that new fire station or DPW building. Yeah. And of course, just to reiterate, any debt exclusion does have to be approved both at town meeting and at the ballot. So this is not something that could go through without a whole lot of people knowing. This is certainly something that we take seriously because the debt exclusion does increase the taxpayer's bill directly. And so that's something that we would do a lot of outreach on, a lot of discussion, conversation before we even get to the town meeting vote or ballot, so that people are well aware of what it is and what the impact would be. And we did present at town meeting last year to discuss the impact of the fire station on a tax bill. And we'll be doing the same this year if it comes up, or however Scott wants to approach that. Whenever it does come up at the town meeting vote, that will be an integral part of that conversation as well.
Great, thank you.
No problem. The other one is for fiscal year 23 only. And so it's just a different view of everything that we'll be making payments on in 23. I did not include the sewer project on here simply because I'm not sure exactly when our repayments will begin. I did get an email just a little bit ago from DEP, and it does look like we might have about $75,000 that we'll need to pay in fiscal year 23, but where that's not official yet, I'm going to hold off on putting it on here. But again, that's going to come from sewer reserves. But otherwise, everything else matches the other spreadsheet. Does anybody have any questions? That's so complicated, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Just quickly, our bond rating is fine.
Our bond rating is AA from Standard & Poor's, S&P now. That's what they go by. That has not changed in the time that I've been here.
Okay. Is there any threat to that? What would it take to change that? Is there something we need to worry about?
Well, the things that they're looking at are, pension and OPEB stability. Those are some of the biggest things that they're looking at. They're also looking at cybersecurity these days. They're asking questions about financial policies and management. That's a big part of those phone calls. It's just to make sure that we are paying attention, that we know what we're doing. We're doing all of those best practices to keep a lid on things, that we're budgeting conservatively. I mean, those are all hugely important items that the town has frankly done a very nice job on. And they've always been pleased with our performance. In order to increase the bond rating, it's harder to increase it than it is to decrease it. But it's certainly increasing our OPEB funding would go a long way. Having a little more assurance of what that retirement assessment is going to be over the next 10 years, because it is projected to go up significantly at the end of the funding schedule, and what would happen if we did actually have to pay that amount. Those are the types of questions that they're asking. They're also looking at environmental impacts and how towns are preparing for that. Abington's not a coastal community, so in some degree we don't have as many concerns about that. But obviously we are not that far from the coast, and climate change is impacting everybody. So those are questions that they're asking as well. Those are really kind of the bigger ones.
Good. So I just asked because please let us know if there's something we're nickel and diming about that affects that, because obviously a change in the bond rating would be a huge effect on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good financial planning, having reserves, being able to plan for future liabilities is really important, because then you can weather things that come along. If we have another pandemic, are we going to be able to handle it? And having those reserves and those plans in place are really important. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have questions for Sonia? All right, Sonia, I think we're all good.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it and all your hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that moves us along to old business. Are there any liaison reports? No. I think it was Daniel that was looking for, so maybe the next meeting we can discuss that real quick about the liaison appointments. Hoping that he'd take over Katie's, but we can discuss that when he's back. There are no correspondence. We don't have meeting minutes yet. Russ, are you able to kind of throw together some meeting minutes for tonight? I meant to ask you at the beginning and I completely forgot about it.
No, I've been taking minutes from the last few meetings, and I'm going to, I need to just start finishing them off, and I'm definitely gonna weigh the advice that Scott gave me a meeting or two ago, and maybe not do the phone book method, but maybe just try to
less is more.
Yeah, exactly. Just follow the
high
discussion points. So
the basics.
yeah. So I just need to catch up on that. So that will be happening very soon. So that
absolutely, Russ. So. Totally understand.
And I think we have kind of figured a way that we can get someone in-house to deal with this going forward. Just have a couple things to iron out, but I just think that we probably will offer it up, but that they won't have to attend the meeting just to put the minutes in together for the meetings.
Are we not that fun?
What's that? So they can watch the meeting.
I said, are we not like a fun group or?
I enjoy it. Sonia seems to enjoy it. The cat does.
This is the highlight of my week.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott, for trying to get that taken care of.
Thank
you. You know what? It's just the timing too. It's hard to, having been the secretary before, it is hard to take minutes and really fully participate in the meeting and listen to all the information that you really need to be listening to and the questions that are being asked. So this is just a hard time to be doing without a recording secretary.
I totally get it. We'll do doing what I can. I think we'll have it resolved for you this week, though.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Russ especially appreciates it.
Yes, absolutely. No, definitely.
So we don't have meeting minutes. So our next meeting is next week. And I believe that is the water department, the town clerk, golf, and the town accountant. When did we move Board of Health to, Scott?
They're the following week.
Yeah.
The following week. Okay.
So I think building and Board of Health will be together the following week.
With South Shore Folk Tech.
Yeah.
And South Shore Folk Tech. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So for next week, water, town clerk, golf, town accountant.
You could alternatively move the town accountant. Did we, Sonia, we had talked about doing the opera presentation on
the 9th.
On the 9th, and the town accountant's going to be pretty much the presenter for that. So if you want to do him on that night, might be a good idea.
To February 9th?
Yeah.
Yeah, unless anyone has any objections to that schedule, that'd be fine with me. Anyone else have any feel differently? Thumbs up from Paul.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. All right. So why don't we plan to do that then, Scott? We'll move the town accountant to
The 9th.
February 9th. That would mean next week we have water, town clerk, and golf.
A reminder too that water and golf are enterprise funds as well, so they're not directly impacting the general fund budget, but obviously their operations are very important.
Thank you very much, Sonia. And we can probably have a quick explanation from each of them about how those enterprise, especially where we have newer people. Daniel will hopefully be here to just really get an understanding of how the enterprise funds work. Thank you for that reminder. All right. Is there anything else? Does anyone have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Time being 9:43, we take a motion to adjourn from Russ.
Second.
A second from Chris. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
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 All right, it's unanimous. I'll see you all next week.